Okay. And with that note, we're going to get started. Whew, it's definitely been an interesting last couple of weeks. So I'll just kind of open up with some housekeeping. So first, I'm just going to address, what everybody's pretty much concerned about, and kind of like what I sent out in the initial message. University of Dallas, from what I can tell, all face-to-face classes have been suspended, and I believe a lot of the face-to-face professors are using this week to transition their classes to as hybrid or as online, as possible. But given that we were already an online course, I really do feel like it's in our best interest if we can just kind of plow through and continue on with the calendar. Only because I do not know if the university has any intentions of altering finals weeks or altering when grades are due. So I don't want to create a false sense of hope. And then when the time comes, everyone's kind of left scrambling. So um, that's kind of what I said. No due dates will change. I know that's probably going to be a big thing that I hear from a lot of people. So I'll just refer them back to this video. We will not be altering any due dates. Everything that's on the calendar will stay that way, at least so you can have some consistency, because I'm sure with your other courses, there probably will be possibly some major alterations. So I'm just going to keep this course as is. And honestly, that's one less thing that you kind of have to worry about. Um, okay, so that leads me to my next point. Grades were posted on the 11th. The grade that is on Canvas is the grade that I put for the University of Dallas regular grading system. Um, that finals week was very interesting, and that I definitely heard from a lot of people that I had not heard from the entire semester. And there were a lot of people that I can tell that had not been watching the online classes. So I think what I'm going to start doing is I am going to start individually messaging people if I notice that you have not watched two or more of my online videos, because like I said, I just noticed that a lot of the people that were either confused about my grading process or confused about everything, they were people that just simply were not attending them live, and I don't think that they were going back to watch them. So just be mindful that communication from me will probably be heavier this second half of the semester, just because I realized I lost so many people, and I didn't realize that they were lost until pretty much the week of finals week. So that being said, for my people that you are regular attenders, you might want to alter your notification settings. So maybe, as opposed to every time that there is an alert that a message goes out. I know on Canvas you can kind of do like a kind of week at a glance thing, and they can kind of send you one email of all the things that I've sent. And like I said, if you've been attending classes, you pretty much kind of have my schedule down. You may not need to check as frequent, but I don't want you to feel overwhelmed with the upcoming amount of notifications. So, for all of my regular attendees, I just wanted to kind of let you know that that will be forthcoming. There will be a lot more messages and a lot more announcements, just because I really want to make sure that we all succeed in this class. Like, I'm not one of those professors that enjoys when people fail. That's not why I'm here. I'm here so everybody can do well. And part of the reason why I do these courses every week is to ensure that everybody is doing well. And now I see I'm going to have to take the step further to make sure that everybody is at the very minimum watching them. So, I think that was pretty much it for the housekeeping. The next thing that I do want to address, and again, most of the people in here, you come here every week, so you're not really the people that I should be talking to. But I want to make sure that everybody is aware that all of my assignments are uploaded to the calendar. And if I'm going to be frank, there should be no reason why we don't know when stuff is due. So the only reason why I can think that is if on your Canvas app, maybe you don't have the calendar setting turned on. So unfortunately, I can't do the screen share thing because I'm on YouTube. But all I will say is this. Please, at some point, go into Canvas, go into your settings, and if you go into your settings, there's a link that says notification. Like they're called notification preferences. And you can do notify me right away. You can do send daily summary, and you can do send weekly summary, or you can do not send me anything. And I really think everyone should go in, because I think the part for calendar, you're not getting those. You're not getting the calendars, and you're not getting the due dates. So I'll probably record a screen share, and I'll send that out to people so everybody is aware of how you can kind of go through and address that setting. In terms of the second half of the semester, just to kind of give a quick run through, I'm going to pull up the calendar now, and all of this is in the syllabus function of this course. So the entire course, all of the due dates, all of everything is already right there. So we just kind of went through our midterm. The next thing coming up, you have two human development activities left that are mandatory. They're both lesson plans. So one is the childhood lesson plan activity, and the next one is the adolescence lesson plan activity. The sample videos that I posted will apply to those two lesson plan activity. Oh, I'm sorry. They will apply to those two lesson plan activities. So assignments that you have less, just 2 lesson plans. Now there will be an extra credit assignment, and that is very similar to the infancy project in that it'll be a presentation. So most people do a PowerPoint. However, there is a difference. And so please, this happened a lot. Please read the description on the assignments. If I'm asking you to do something and it's in the description of the assignment, please do it, because I really don't want to have to knock off points for something that everyone is well aware of. And I also don't like having to explain in emails when people message me, why did I get this off? And it's like, it's a very detailed description. So I'm letting you know now, all the assignment pages are up. Please don't wait until they're due to finally go and to start on the assignments. I would urge everyone this week to go in and look at the assignment pages, so you at least understand of what it is you need to do and when it's supposed to be turned in. Don't wait until the last minute. And after that, that's pretty much it. So you pretty much have three more assignments. I know this is going to sound pretty morbid, but I also have the withdrawal deadline on the calendar. So the date to withdrawal is April 3rd. And there is no shame in having to withdraw and having to renegotiate, and you want to try this again. So if you do feel like you are at the verge of withdrawing, let me know, okay? Please let me know. I will sign whatever it is that you need to sign so you can maintain your academic integrity, and you can stay and make sure that you're in good withstanding, not only with the university, but also with the School of Education. So I did include the withdrawal date on the calendar. That date to withdraw is April 3rd. It is on the calendar. So please know that if you do not withdraw after that, that means whatever grade and whatever obligations you have to fulfill for this course, it's going to be your responsibility to make sure that you get them fulfilled, because after April 3rd, that's it. You're in it. You can't do anything else. Okay. And I think that's pretty much it. I think I covered everything. So again, after tonight's class, I urge everyone to go into the syllabus, go look at the remaining assignments, look at the assignment pages, look at the rubrics, really understand what it is I'm asking you to do. So that way you can kind of get an early start on those assignments. And you can turn in assignments as early as starting an assignment. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to jump into the study guide for chapter 8 so we can begin our second half of the semester, where we kind of started off learning about the little kids. So now we're going to learn about the big kids. So if you're following along with me in the study guide, now will be a great time to do so, because I'm going to start flipping back and forth. So with chapter 8, the important concept from chapter 8 is we shift into this concept of middle childhood. And so middle childhood is that it's kind of like that gray area. I like to think about, if you think about those books, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, that is that kind of genre of book that is catered to the young person that is in that middle childhood stage. You're not quite an adolescent yet. So you're not going through puberty, you're not doing all of that. But you're also not, playing with dolls, and, you don't necessarily want to ride around and be a fireman anymore. So you get to ride around a fire truck. So middle childhood is that gray area. It's kind of like that gray area life. And a lot of things are happening at this particular stage for children. So kind of have that in the back of the mind as you go through this chapter. So first, they're going to open it up like all of the first part. Whenever we introduce a new development, they always open up with talking about the physical. So there's a physical development table. I really want us to focus on this aspect of physical fitness and obesity in children. And the reason why I want us to focus on that is because in present day, we've seen a huge shift in our focus on this whole concept of being overweight. And now we have this idea of being pre-diabetic. And we're seeing a lot of that trickle down into children. And not just in terms of the negatives, but also positives in terms of, okay, more schools are trying to be more creative in terms of, well, what does physical education look like? They're not only focusing on the physical education aspect of it, but now they're also beefing up the health. So that includes doing things like making sure that there are more nutritious foods when you go to school. So you've just seen a huge shift in the last physical and in the last few years as it pertains to physical education and making sure that children are being more active. And so this part of the chapter, I really want you guys to kind of think about that and also focus on what are some statistics. I'll address that once I get through the I hate to call it a lecture, but essentially a lecture. Like I said in the beginning, it's going to talk about the physical and motor development, and I want us to focus on the physical development table, and then there's going to be a section that talks about physical fitness and obesity. All right, they're also going to discuss table 8-3, which is psychological disorders and mental illnesses. Now, the reason why I really want us to focus on this is because at the middle childhood stage, students or children may become more aware of the issues that they have, as opposed to when they were younger and they didn't kind of know what was going on. By the time that they're in the middle of childhood, you may be dealing with children that have been in therapy for a couple of years, or they've simply been getting in trouble for a couple of years, and they've been able to kind of put together and piece together, okay, I think I have this. And so as an educator, or anybody who works with kids, it's always really good to be well-versed in how psychological disorders and mental illnesses develop specifically in children. So what does it look like when a child is going through, something like PTSD, or what does it look like when a child may have symptoms of, being bipolar? So this is a very important part of the chapter, and I really want us to kind of slow down and focus on that when you read it. And I've also included a video in the in our learning materials for this week. I've included some videos in terms of it's a really good video on PTSD in children. It's an excellent video. It's a TED Talk. Next, we're going to go into cognitive development. So cognitive development, it's really all about how they learn at this point, because this particular book is focusing on kids in this age and them being in school. So first, it's going to talk about memory and metacognition. And you want to know, what does metacognition mean? Which essentially is children aware of their thinking. So they're more aware of how they learn, if they learn well. You want to go into the language and literacy development. And that's just kind of like, if you're dealing with a student that's in the middle childhood range, what does literacy look like? It should not look like it did when they were in early childhood or toddlerhood. So it's all about a gradual step up. So at this stage, what does literacy development look like? What are some things that they should be learning, and what are some things that they should be doing by this stage? Okay, they're also going to go into differences in intelligence, and with an emphasis on IQ testing and the bell curve. So this information I included, it's not going to be on the quiz. It's just things that I included because I feel like if you're in education, a lot of what we do is still based on IQ testing. And you want to have at least some history of, how did this come about? And that's why I included that. So I included a video link, and then I also included a book. I read this book a couple years back. It's by far not an easy read, so I'm letting you know now. It's very scientific, but if you're into that, it's very interesting because he essentially traces testing back to the history, like to some of the very, very first tests. So it's a very interesting book. And he goes to dispel some of the myths that we still deal with today due to some of those tests that were created in a time period when science was very much controlled by racist ideas and also misogynist ideas. So that's just a kind of interesting book that if you kind of read it on your own time. Okay, so after that, it goes into learning and thinking in school. So it deals directly with the school setting. And this is probably one of the first chapters that actually does that. So definitely, as you read this section, always keep in mind and always be mindful of, okay, how does this play out in school? How does this play out in school? So first, they're going to give us some youth literacy rates. That's figure 8-7. Then next, they're going to talk about how do you develop competent learners and critical thinkers. Okay, so this section, extremely important. Again, I always say if you plan on going into the classroom, there are certain things that you should kind of bunny ear so you can reference. And, because this is a pretty good book. This is one of those sections where you definitely want to bunny ear, because a lot of the frustration that you will feel when you get into the classroom is you want them to learn things, but a lot of times there's going to be a gap between the curriculum and where your kids actually are. So in order to kind of save you from pulling your hair out, read this section of the chapter so you can know what your kids should be capable of doing. And it's also going to give you some clues that if they are not capable of doing that, you're going to have some strategies and some tools to help them get to that point. Because again, it's all about being developmentally appropriate. And I'm letting you know now, not all curriculum is developmentally appropriate. And so you just want to make sure that you're the educator that can decide when something is developmentally appropriate, and you can push your kids versus when something is not developmentally appropriate. And you're going to have to come up with a creative way for them to still understand understand the information that the state of Texas will hold them accountable for, because we don't have the luxury of just simply not teaching it. So very important section of the chapter. Then the next section, it goes into success in school. And so there's going to be 3 tables that I want us to focus on. Those are going to be tables 8-8, 8-9, and 8-10. And so it's just going to kind of talk about, well, what does success in school look like? What types of children are more successful than others? How can you possibly make students successful? Students that are unsuccessful, it's going to give you some reasons as to why they might not be successful. So that's just that's a really great section as well. And then it's also going to go into the gender differences in school success. And again, as you read this, I definitely want us to kind of read it with an open mind and read it with the idea that we want to learn new things, because part of the reason why I suggested this part of the chapter is to dispel some myths about gender differences in school. Lastly, so next is going to go into the intellectual and developmentally disabilities. Okay, now this is another very important, really this whole chapter is super duper important. These next few chapters are going to be super important. And the reason why they'll really apply to you regardless of what level you plan on teaching at. So if you plan on teaching at the elementary level, you're going to need to know this. If you plan on teaching at the middle school level, you're going to need to know this. And part of the reason why you're going to need to know it is because a lot of times when kids get to middle school, they still have things that they haven't addressed from their middle childhood years. So you want to be aware and you want to be able to identify specific triggers, specific behaviors, things of that nature. And so on and so forth as we go on in life. As the story goes, we all are just manifestations of our childhood traumas. So the more you really understand this childhood development or stage of development, you will really begin to understand a lot of things. And I mean behaviors in your family, behaviors in your friends, behaviors in your own kids, even behaviors in yourselves. So this really is just like a super important chapter. And I really want us to slow down and focus on this. And even though I'm kind of picking out and highlighting the things that are going to be on the quiz, this is a chapter that I would really strongly suggest that you just kind of read, because it's very informative, and it will help you in any field that you plan on going into that deals with children. Okay, so first, there's a table 8-11, and it just kind of, it's a table that just kind of goes over everything. And so you want to be able to identify a disorder and a description. And so the big, some of the learning disorders that I kind of picked out, because I feel like, this is kind of what we see most. So dyslexia, and then learning disabilities in general. And then they're going to talk about ADHD, and they're going to give a table on some very important information as it pertains to ADHD, and also different ways in which how you can treat children with ADHD. Lastly, that's an in-class activity, and we're probably not going to go ahead and do that. So this is pretty much all of the important information as it pertains to the quiz that I want us to glean from chapter 8. However, like I said, this is a very important chapter that if you do plan to go into education or any field where you're working with children, this is a chapter that you really want to read and you really want to understand. Highlight, take notes, do things, because you'll kind of want to reference it in the future. Okay, so as we go into our module, which this is in module 10. And so module 10, the learning materials, this week, the discussion boards will begin to shift. So let me say this down. I guess let me kind of mark it. So at the 3144 discussion board post explanation. Now be direct reflections of things in the learning materials. So this whole time, I always include, different videos, possibly different infographics in the learning materials, but you were never held accountable for them on the quiz or any. They were just kind of, supplemental tools to help you understand. Now, the learning materials you will be held accountable for through your discussion board post. So I'm going to read it. So this week on your learning materials, you're going to have a video, you're going to have an infographic, and then you're going to have like an article. And then you're going to have another video. Okay, so, and then there's also the study guide, but I'm gonna go ahead and move it because I don't put them there. All right, so after you go through the learning materials page, the next page will be your discussion board post. It says, select one piece from the learning module and summarize your important takeaways from the content. Discussion board posts should be a paragraph in length. Please cite specific facts from the content you chose to focus on. Please type the title of your content in your post so that we understand the reference. And I'm saying that because every semester I generally have a few people who don't do that. So let me try to make the font a little bit larger. And I'm going to highlight. Okay. And now for these, the peer reviews have been down to 1, and it'll say that. And then also, you kind of have the peer review thing. So previous semester, it was 2. Now it's just kind of like, as long as you reply to at least one person, you will receive credit. And it also says you should focus on someone who had different content than your own. So if you watch the video on PTSD, then you need to comment on someone who watched or viewed something different. If you watch, if you read the infographic on ADHD, then you need to comment on somebody who did something different. If you did your post on PTSD, don't comment on someone who also did their post on PTSD. I'm telling you now, you will not receive credit. In order to receive credit, you respond to somebody who did something different than what you focused on. And that's probably like the big change for discussion board posts for this remaining half of the remaining half of the semester. Okay, so I'm going to that's it. We've gone over everything important from the week 10 module. I'm going to jump back to what Alma typed. Take the classes and do what if we need assignments extended? Okay, so Alma, as we all know, and we learned it last semester, I have a deadline. That deadline is that deadline will be the end of the semester. So like at the first half, everything had to be due by the midterm. So now that we're in the second half, everything has to be due by the final. So I'm going to say this to all the students. I understand that you guys are probably dealing with trying to balance your online classes and now your face-to-face that are now online classes. Please keep in mind that, I still have to adhere to deadlines just like the university. So when those professors have to turn in their grades, I have to turn them in at the exact same time. So please keep that in mind. And that's part of the reason why this course is already pretty much wide open. So there's no possible way to extend assignments that I already said you don't really have a due date. That's going to be up to you all in terms of how you balance your time. Now, keep in mind, because we did learn this 2 weeks ago, even though I always say, oh, you have until the final, the final will sneak up on you before you know it. So I'm just going to say, keep all of that in mind. But I myself am not changing any due dates because I can't, because the grades are going to be due when they're due. I myself will not be changing the final window unless that comes down from the university and they say something about pushing the final window back or forward, though I don't know if they'll do that. So all I can say is, for myself and for my class, nothing will change because my class is already pretty lax. What I will say, in terms of like any sicknesses, I will need doctor's notes moving forward. So if you do have something going on, it's kind of hard for me to take it serious if it's happening, right when finals week. And I have had some students that have been letting me know since the first week of school that if they've been going through something strenuous, whether it be with themselves or whether it be with family. So that's all I will say. I will need a doctor's note if something does happen and if it does get to that point. And then I'll definitely make sure that I do what I need to do, and I'll reach out to the university to make sure that we're doing things all on the up and up. Oh, wow, it started raining. So I guess, and with that being said, I'm going to start moving these classes as opposed to Tuesdays. I'm going to start doing them on Mondays. The reason being is because attendance on Tuesdays already isn't that high. On average, I think I have about, 12 of you that come in. And so I'd much rather do the video on Monday to start the week off fresh, just so people have more time to kind of watch the videos. So if you can continue to watch them live, I strongly encourage that. But most of us in here, you guys are pretty much my regulars. You'll know where to go to look for the videos, and you guys are pretty much responsible enough that you'll find the videos after they have been posted if you can't watch them live. But I will make that transition and start doing the videos on Monday, and I'll send out an announcement so that everyone is aware of that. I will still post them on, I'll still post them on Canvas. So, you don't have to worry about that, but I am going to start doing them on Mondays. And I may start doing them earlier because, like I said, no, I'll probably still do them around the 5 to 6 o'clock hour, because I do know that some of you benefit from being able to ask me questions in real time. So I will try to keep it around this time, but I'm going to start doing them on Mondays. Okay. So right now it is 7:20. I'm going to hang back for about 5 minutes. If anybody has any kind of lingering questions, but if not, I will see you all next week, Monday, because that will be the time that I will start, doing that. Okay, so Patty, what time is your class? Because like I said, I want to try to kind of do it. I'll at least try to take into a consensus of the time, because when I did this in the first place, it really was kind of 50-50 split between Monday and Tuesday. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I'll probably continue to do this course. I may bump it up now because I'm not at work. That was part of the reason why I did it so late in the first place. So I may bump it up to about maybe 5:30 or 6. So it won't be as late either. But I'm going to leave it at that. Again, if anybody wants to hang back and ask me any questions, you can, if you need me to clarify anything. But everyone here is free to go.